Walk into any apartment in any major city right now, and I guarantee you will see the same couch. You know the one. That low-profile, boucle fabric, curved arm sofa that looks like it belongs in an architect's living room in Milan. It is everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, the lobby of your dentist's office. It looks like it costs $5,000. It feels like it cost about $80,000. Because it did. Sit on it for 6 months, and the cushions sag. The fabric pills. The frame, which is not solid wood but particle board wrapped in a photograph of wood, starts to creak like a screen door in a hurricane. And here is the part that should bother you. You knew this would happen. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you knew. But you bought it anyway. Because it looked right. It photographed well. And for a brief, shining moment, it made your life look like a page from a magazine that no longer exists in print. This is not a story about furniture. This is a story about a trap that has been closing around you since before you were born. A trap so elegant, so beautifully designed, that most people never realize they're inside it. Tonight, we are going to trace the invisible thread that connects a couch that falls apart in 6 months to a psychological operation that began nearly 100 years ago. A scheme so vast that it rewired the way entire civilizations think about value, about status, about what it means to have a good life. And by the end of this, you will understand why everything around you looks expensive but feels cheap. Not because companies got lazy, but because they got smarter. Smarter than you, smarter than me, smarter than anyone who is not paying very, very close attention. Let me paint a picture for you. It is a Tuesday night. You are standing in your kitchen. The countertops are a laminate that looks like marble. The cabinet handles are a gold finish that is already starting to tarnish after 4 months. The faucet is a matte black, the kind you see in every renovation video online, and it has a slight wobble at the base that was not there when you installed it. You open the refrigerator, which is covered in a stainless steel veneer, and you grab a sparkling water from a brand that charges 3 times more than the store brand because the can has a minimalist font and a pastel color palette. You take a sip. It tastes exactly the same. You know it tastes exactly the same, but the can looks better sitting on your counter, so you keep buying it. Now zoom out. Look at the whole room. Everything in it is designed to signal a life of quality and taste, but almost nothing in it is actually built to last. The surfaces are thin. The materials are hollow. The aesthetic is meticulously curated, but the substance underneath is tissue paper. You are living in a movie set. A beautiful, convincing, incredibly fragile movie set. And the rent is not cheap. This is the Veneer economy. Not my term, but it should be. It is the system we have built where the appearance of quality has completely replaced the need for actual quality. Where the image is the product and the physical object is just a delivery mechanism for the image. And if you think this is a new problem, something that started with social media or fast fashion or cheap manufacturing overseas, I need to take you back, way back, because this disease has roots that go deeper than most people want to look. Let us go to 1929, October, New York City. The stock market has just collapsed like a building with no foundation, which, if you think about it, is exactly what it was. The American economy is in free fall. Banks are closing. Families are losing everything. Bread lines stretch around entire city blocks. But the crisis is not just financial. It is psychological. For the first time in modern history, Americans have been forced to confront a terrifying question. What happens when the machine stops? What happens when the factories go quiet? When the stores have nothing on the shelves? when the promise of endless prosperity turns out to be a lie told by men in expensive suits? The answer, as it turned out, was despair. Real, bone-deep despair, the kind that changes a generation. People who lived through the Great Depression never forgot it. They saved everything. Tinfoil, rubber bands, pieces of string. They wore their shoes until the soles had holes, and then they patched the holes and kept wearing them. They understood, in a way that their children and grandchildren never would, that objects had a cost that went beyond the price tag. That a well-made thing was not a luxury, it was a form of security. A hedge against a world that could, at any moment, fall apart. Now, hold that thought. Because what happened next is one of the most important and least discussed turning points in modern history. The economy eventually recovered. The war came, and the war ended. And by the late 1940s, America was sitting on top of the world. Factories that had been building tanks and bombers were retooled to build refrigerators and automobiles. Soldiers came home, got married, moved to brand new suburbs, and started buying things. Lots of things. But there was a problem. The people running these factories, these corporations, these new empires of consumer goods, they had done the math. And the math was terrifying. If you build a washing machine that lasts 30 years, you sell one washing machine per household per generation. That is not a business. That is a death sentence. You need people to buy another one, and another one, and another one. But how do you convince someone to replace something that still works? This is where a man named Brooks Stevens enters the picture. Stevens was an industrial designer based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Brilliant guy, sharp dresser. Had a mind that worked like a Swiss watch, always calculating, always 3 moves ahead. And in 1954, Stevens gave a speech that would quietly reshape the entire Western world. He stood in front of a room full of advertising executives and introduced a concept. He called it planned obsolescence. Now, the idea was not entirely new. General Motors had been playing with a version of it since the 1920s, changing car models every year to make last year's model look dated. But Stevens gave it a name. He gave it a philosophy. And most importantly, he gave it permission. He told that room full of men in suits that the goal of modern industry should not be to build the best product. The goal should be to build a product that creates the desire for something newer, something slightly better, something that makes the old version feel inadequate, not broken, just not enough. Think about what that means. He was not talking about things wearing out. He was talking about engineering dissatisfaction, building a product that works fine but feels wrong. A refrigerator that still cools your food but suddenly looks outdated because the new model has rounded corners instead of square ones. A car that still drives but embarrasses you in the parking lot of your office because it is last year's color. Stevens understood something fundamental about human psychology. We do not buy things because we need them. We buy things because of how they make us feel relative to the people around us. And if you can control that feeling, if you can manufacture that itch of inadequacy, you do not need to build a better product. You just need to build a newer one. This idea spread like a virus through every corner of American industry, and then it mutated. Because the original version of planned obsolescence was at least honest in a crooked sort of way. The products still worked. They were just styled to feel old. But by the 1970s and 80s, something darker started happening. Companies realized that you did not even need to change the style. You could just make the product worse. use cheaper materials, thinner plastic, weaker joints. Design the thing so that one specific component, usually the one that is hardest to replace, fails after a predictable number of uses. And because consumers had been trained for decades to expect constant replacement, they did not fight it. They just bought another one. The light bulb is the oldest example, and I know you have probably heard this one, but it is worth telling again because the details are so brazen they sound like fiction. In 1924, the major light bulb manufacturers of the world, Philips, Osram, General Electric, and a few others, formed a secret cartel called Phoebus. Their goal was simple. Light bulbs at the time could last up to 2,500 hours. The cartel agreed, in writing, with penalties for non-compliance, to engineer their bulbs to burn out after 1,000 hours. They deliberately made their product worse, not to save money, but to sell more of it. They had already solved the engineering problem. They knew how to make a bulb that lasted. They chose not to. And for the next 20 years, the entire world bought light bulbs that were designed to die. Now, take that principle and fast forward it to today. Because the veneer economy is not just planned obsolescence with a fresh coat of paint. It is something more sophisticated, more insidious. It is the merger of two forces that on their own are powerful enough, but together they are almost unstoppable. The first force is the one we just talked about, the engineering of disposability, making things that are designed to be replaced. But the second force is newer and in many ways more dangerous. It is the industrialization of aesthetics, the ability to make anything look premium at almost no cost. Think about this. 30 years ago, if you wanted something that looked like marble, you had to buy marble. If you wanted something that looked like oak, you had to buy oak. The gap between how something looked and what it was made of was narrow, because faking quality was expensive. Not anymore. Modern manufacturing can print any texture, any pattern, any finish onto the cheapest materials imaginable. That matte black faucet in your kitchen is not made of the same alloy as the one in the design magazine that inspired it. It is made of zinc, coated in a finish that will chip if you look at it wrong. But it photographs identically. On a screen, in a picture, in a 60-second renovation video, it is indistinguishable from the real thing. And that is the breakthrough. Not in material science. In perception management. This is where social media pours gasoline on a fire that was already burning. Because every platform, every feed, every algorithm is essentially a machine that runs on one fuel: comparison. You see a kitchen that looks like yours but slightly better. A wardrobe that looks like yours but slightly more put together. A life that looks like yours but slightly more curated. And that itch, that exact itch that Brooke Stevens was talking about in 1954, it starts. But now it is not happening once a year when the new car models come out. It is happening every time you pick up your phone. Every single scroll is a microdose of inadequacy, and the cure, the only cure the system offers, is to buy something, not something better. Something newer, something that looks right, something that photographs well. The companies know this. They have studied this with the intensity of military strategists. They know that you will choose a product that looks good on a screen over a product that feels good in your hands. Because you are not buying for your hands. You are buying for your image. You are buying for the version of your life that exists in photographs and stories and the background of video calls. The couch does not need to be comfortable. It needs to look comfortable. The jacket does not need to be warm. It needs to look expensive. The apartment does not need to feel like a home. It needs to look like one when the camera is on. And here is the part that really keeps me up at night. The companies are not even hiding it anymore. There is a term used in the furniture industry, and I swear I am not making this up. They call it the unboxing experience. That is the design priority, not durability, not comfort, not craftsmanship. The moment you open the box, the packaging, the first visual impression, because they know, they have data on this, that if the unboxing feels premium, the customer will rate the product higher, leave a better review, and post about it online. Even if the product itself starts deteriorating within weeks, they have optimized for the first 5 minutes of ownership. Everything after that is your problem. This creates a cycle that is almost impossible to break from the inside. You buy something that looks premium. It breaks or degrades. You feel a small pang of frustration, but you do not feel cheated because it was not that expensive. And besides, there is already a newer version, a slightly updated model, a different color. A collaboration with some designer whose name you recognize, but whose work you have never actually studied. So you replace it, and the cycle restarts. You are not building a life, you are subscribing to one. And the subscription comes with automatic renewals that you never explicitly agreed to but cannot seem to cancel. Now, there is a cost to all of this that goes beyond your bank account. And I want to talk about it because no one else seems to. There is a psychological weight to living in a world where nothing around you is what it appears to be, where every surface is a performance and every object is a prop. You start to feel it in strange ways, a low-grade anxiety that you cannot quite name, a sense that something is off, like walking through a house where all the doors are slightly the wrong size. Your brain registers the inconsistency even when your eyes do not. You sit on that couch, and some part of you, the ancient animal part that evolved to assess your environment for safety and stability, that part knows. It knows the thing beneath you is not solid. It knows the world you have built around yourself is a stage set. And it whispers to you, constantly, quietly, that you are not safe, not because of any real danger, but because nothing around you is real. This is the hidden tax of the Veneer economy. Not the money you spend on things that break, but the erosion of your relationship with the physical world. When everything is fake, you lose the ability to recognize what is genuine. When every material is an imitation, you forget what the real thing feels like, and eventually, you stop caring. You stop running your hand along a piece of furniture to feel the grain. You stop checking the weight of a tool in your hand. You stop noticing the difference between a thing that was made and a thing that was assembled. And once you lose that instinct, you are the perfect consumer, compliant, unquestioning, ready to buy the next beautiful, hollow thing that slides across your screen. So how do you get out? That is the question, right? And I am not going to insult you with some simple 5-step plan because this is not that kind of problem. This is a rewiring job, a fundamental shift in how you see the world and your place in it. But there is a starting point, and it begins with a single, uncomfortable idea. Stop buying for how things look. Start buying for how things age. That is it. That is the entire rebellion in one sentence. But let me unpack it, because it is deeper than it sounds. Every object you own is in a relationship with time. Some objects get worse with time. They chip, they peel, they sag, they break. These are veneer objects. They are at their best the moment you take them out of the box, and it is all downhill from there. But there is another category, objects that get better with time. A leather bag that develops a patina. A cast iron skillet that becomes more non-stick with every use. A solid wood table that darkens and deepens over the decades. A pair of boots that mold to the shape of your feet. These objects do not just survive time, they absorb it. They carry your story in their surface. They become more yours the longer you own them. And this distinction, this simple question of how does this age, will change the way you see everything, because it flips the entire value system of the veneer economy on its head. The system wants you to optimize for the moment of purchase, the image, the unboxing, the photograph. But when you optimize for aging, you start looking for different things. You look for solid materials instead of coated ones. You look for simple construction instead of complicated gimmicks. You look for things made by people who cared about what they were making, which, by the way, you can almost always tell. There is a feeling to a well-made thing that no amount of surface treatment can fake. A density, a quiet confidence. It does not need to announce itself. It does not need to look expensive. It just is. I want to tell you about a cobbler I met in Lisbon. Small shop, no sign out front, just a doorway between a bakery and a pharmacy, on a street so narrow you could touch both walls if you stretched out your arms. This man made shoes by hand, and I mean by hand. Every stitch, every cut, every piece of leather selected and shaped and molded by his fingers. I asked him how long a pair of his shoes would last. He looked at me like I had asked how long the sun would keep burning. He said, "If you take care of them, they will outlive you." And he was not bragging. He was confused by the question, because in his world, in the world he had inherited from his father and his father's father, the idea of a shoe that did not last was not just bad business. It was an insult to the craft. It was a betrayal of the relationship between the maker and the owner. He did not build shoes for the moment of purchase. He built them for the years after, for the walks, the rain, the scuffs that tell a story. He built them to age with you. That man is almost extinct. And that is not an accident. He is being driven out not because his product is inferior, but because his product is too good. It lasts too long. It does not generate repeat purchases. It does not feed the cycle. In the veneer economy, quality is a threat. Durability is the enemy. The thing that lasts is the thing that stops the machine from running. But you have a choice. You always have a choice. And the choice is not about money, not entirely, because some of the cheapest things you can own are also the most durable. A simple cotton shirt, well made, will outlast a closet full of fast fashion. A plain ceramic mug from a local potter will still be in your hand 20 years from now, long after the 15th trendy tumbler has cracked and been thrown away. It is not about spending more. It is about spending differently. It is about asking, before every purchase, a question that the entire veneer economy is designed to prevent you from asking. Is this real? Not does it look real. Not does it photograph well. Not will it impress someone scrolling past my life at 3 a.m. But is it real? Is it solid? Is it true? Will it be here next year, and the year after, and the year after that? Not just surviving, but getting better, getting deeper, getting more mine. Because here is the final secret, the one they really do not want you to know. The opposite of the veneer life is not poverty. It is not minimalism. It is not some monk on a mountain with nothing but a bowl and a blanket. The opposite of the veneer life is depth. It is owning less, but owning things that matter. Things that have weight, not just physical weight, but the weight of intention, of craftsmanship, of time. Things that do not need to perform for a camera because they were never built for one. They were built for a life. An actual, physical, lived in, worn in, broken in life. That couch in your apartment, the one that looks so good in the picture, it is going to fall apart. You know it. I know it. The company that made it definitely knows it. And when it does, you will have a choice. Buy another beautiful hollow thing and restart a cycle. Or stop, look around, and for the first time, start building something real. The veneer is cracking. The question is whether you will keep painting over it or finally pull it back to see what is underneath.